the beginning of our story, we meet a happy family living their normal life. But they had no idea that in just a few minutes, something terrible would happen that would change everything forever. While the husband and wife were talking together, they suddenly heard people screaming and shouting outside their house. When they stepped out, they saw chaos everywhere. People were running from their homes as if something very dangerous was coming. Jason and Beth watched their neighbors quickly packing up and leaving their houses in panic. Jason asked his neighbor what was happening and why everyone was leaving. But people were in such a hurry that nobody answered him. Then Jason spoke to a neighbor's child who was also packing. When Jason asked where they were going, the boy explained that his father's friend worked for the government. This friend had warned them about a deadly virus that was spreading, a virus that could turn normal people into monsters. Just then, the boy's mother came and grabbed him to leave quickly. When Jason asked her about this virus, she said there was no time to explain. She told them to take their wife and daughter and get as far away from the city as possible. Hearing this, Jason and Beth became very scared and immediately put their family in the car to escape the city. But on the road, they noticed something strange. The same neighbors who were running away were now coming back toward the city. This made them even more confused. Soon, they got stuck in heavy traffic. When Jason and his family got out of their car, they discovered that police had blocked the only road leading out of the city. Helicopters were flying overhead, and officials were announcing that a dangerous virus had spread through the city. They were telling everyone to return to their homes immediately. Jason found this very suspicious. If there was a deadly virus in Titi City, why were authorities forcing people to stay inside instead of letting them escape? Suddenly, a large rock fell from the nearby mountain and crashed onto their car. The family was terrified as the mountain began to shake. Then, 2 military fighter jets appeared from behind the mountain and flew toward the city. These fighter jets began dropping bombs all over the city, turning everything to ash and dust. Beth immediately realized that if they had listened to the police and returned home, they would have been killed in the bombing. The fighter jets then turned toward the people on the road and started attacking them too. Everyone panicked when they understood that the government was trying to kill them all. People ran in different directions, trying to save their lives. But Jason and Beth knew that no matter where they ran, the fighter jets would find and kill them. Beth looked behind them and spotted a school building on the mountain. She thought it might be a safer place to hide. The family quickly climbed up the mountain toward the school, while the jets bombed the bridge where other people were trapped. The 3 of them ran as fast as they could and reached the school just in time. Luckily, they found an underground tunnel or bunker. They rushed inside just seconds before a massive explosion happened above them. As soon as they closed the bunker door, there was a huge blast outside. Fortunately, they were safe underground and survived the attack. But now they faced a terrible mystery. What kind of virus was so dangerous that the government had to kill everyone in the city? They couldn't understand what was happening. All they knew was that to stay alive, they had to live quietly in this underground bunker. However, they worried about how long they could survive there and what they would do for food and water. The good news was that the bunker had plenty of canned food that could last the 3 of them for a long time. Beth was very worried about their daughter Joey. She kept thinking about what they would do if Joey got sick. Also, Beth had injured her hand badly when closing the bunker door, and they were both afraid that the dangerous virus might have infected them too. But there was no time to worry about that now. They needed to make the bunker secure so that no one could open the door from above. Jason used heavy iron chains to lock the bunker door tightly and decided they would have to hide and live there for as long as necessary. Life underground was not easy. Every day they ate the same food, drank muddy water, and played cards to pass the time. They had completely lost contact with the outside world. After staying there for many days, they became very tired of living in the cramped bunker. But what choice did they have? If they went outside, they wouldn't survive. This kind of life made Jason's family feel like the world had ended. Joey asked her father how long they would have to stay there. Jason didn't have an answer. He could only tell his daughter that they would go outside when the virus was gone. He would place his fingers over her eyes and help her imagine the outside world. Days turned into weeks, then months. They didn't realize that they had already spent more than 300 days waiting in that bunker. Joey used a periscope that her mother had made to look at the outside world. All she could see was destruction everywhere, as if the entire world had been burned to ashes. There was no sign of any human life. Seeing this, the little girl began to think that maybe they were the last people alive in the world. Her mother comforted her, saying not to think like that. Maybe her friends were also hiding somewhere just like them. One evening during dinner time, they noticed their food supplies were running low, so they were eating very small portions. But Joey insisted on having a full can of food that day. When she opened the tin can, she discovered it was completely empty. There was a small hole in the back of the can, and it looked like some creature had stolen the food. Beth checked all the remaining cans and found that 12 cans were empty. That was 2 weeks' worth of their food supply. Beth looked toward the ventilation grate and guessed that maybe a mouse had gotten inside and stolen their food. She said they needed to catch and kill this mouse quickly, or it would ruin all their food. Seeing Joey's sad face, Jason comforted her, saying not to worry about small problems. If they ran out of food, he would go outside and bring back more supplies. The next day, while Joey was playing with blocks with her mother, they heard a small noise from behind them. When Joey turned around, she saw the mouse had come back to steal more food. Before the mouse could escape, Joey quickly called her parents. They decided they had to catch this mouse today, no matter what. Jason grabbed a knife and tried to cut the mouse into pieces, but the small mouse was very fast. It dodged Jason's attacks and knocked over the lamp on the table before escaping toward its hole. Just as the mouse was about to disappear, Beth suddenly lunged forward and killed it. They were all celebrating catching the mouse when they realized the fallen lamp had started a fire that was slowly spreading. Jason ran to put out the lamp, but it was too hot and burned his hand. When the glass broke, the entire table caught fire. Beth tore down a curtain to help put out the fire, and Jason got half a bucket of water to pour on the flames. Together, they managed to put out the fire, but their troubles were just beginning. Although they had put out the fire, the smoke had filled the entire bunker and was slowly escaping through the ventilation grate to the surface above. They were terrified because this smoke would reveal their hiding place to anyone looking for survivors. They all sat holding their breath, hoping that the darkness of night would hide the smoke so no one would discover their location. The 3 of them stayed awake all night, frightened and worried. The next morning, they looked through the periscope to check outside, and their worst fears came true. They could see that smoke was still rising from above their bunker. They were certain that their hiding place had been discovered. Beth pointed out that where there was smoke, there would also be ash scattered around, and anyone investigating would easily find their bunker. They decided they had to go outside and clean up the evidence. Before leaving, Jason made Joey promise that no matter what sounds she heard or what happened outside, she must not leave the bunker. After getting this promise from their daughter, they removed the chains from the door, listened carefully for any sounds outside, and when they were sure it was safe, they opened the bunker door and went out together. Their daughter was now alone inside, waiting for her parents to return. After waiting for a long time without her parents returning, Joey climbed on a stool and used the periscope to see what was happening outside. She could see her parents trying to hide the bunker entrance, but then she saw something that made her heart stop. In the distance, she spotted a dark shadow moving quickly toward her parents. The little girl shouted loudly to warn her father to look behind him, but they were too far away to hear her. In her panic, Joey forgot her fear and climbed up the ladder to get out of the bunker. When she emerged, she realized her parents were no longer there. The frightened girl began calling loudly for her mother and father. Suddenly, someone grabbed her mouth from behind. It was her mother. A few seconds later, a herd of wild deer ran quickly past them. Although the 3 of them barely escaped, Beth's fear grew even stronger. The deer running like this was surely because they were trying to escape from something very dangerous. Sensing the danger, the family quickly ran back toward the bunker and went inside. Jason barricaded the door with wooden boards and secured it tightly with iron chains, then told everyone to remain completely silent. Soon, they heard slow footsteps from above. It sounded like someone was approaching the bunker door. They could hear whatever it was walking around above the bunker for several minutes. The three of them quietly moved away from the door toward the back of the bunker, hoping that if someone opened the door from above, they wouldn't be seen from that distance. But then Joey's doll, which she was holding, got its string caught on a screw. The screw began to loosen slowly. Jason and Beth's heart stopped because that string was connected to the sound mechanism inside the doll. Before they could do anything, the screw came loose with a jerk, and suddenly the doll began making loud noises. Jason immediately tore open the doll and destroyed the speaker inside. But it was too late. Whatever was tracking them above had heard the sound. Suddenly, there was a loud banging from above, and heavy footsteps stopped directly over the bunker door. It had finally found their hiding place and began trying to open it. The creature was pushing hard against the bunker lid, and even though it was secured with chains, they could clearly feel the danger. The monster above knew for sure that someone was hiding below. Although the door was secured with strong chains, they began breaking one by one under the terrifying strength of the creature above. Jason realized the door wouldn't hold much longer, so he quickly ran inside and started pulling out the water pump pipe. Beth also showed courage by climbing the ladder and using her body weight to pull the chains and keep the door closed. But still, the iron lid slowly began to open. At that moment, a black shadow appeared above the door with eyes that glowed like light bulbs, as if death itself was looking down at them. Without thinking, Jason attacked it with the pipe, causing it to fall backward. Jason quickly wedged the pipe in the door to keep it closed, and the creature ran away. But Jason's body was still shaking terribly. He had never imagined that the outside world contained not only ruthless soldiers but also dangerous monsters roaming around. The entire family sat dejectedly near the stairs, because their hiding place had been exposed. They could be attacked at any moment, and they knew that while only one creature had come this time, next time there would be many more, and they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. A little later, the cabinet suddenly began shaking. Jason and Beth understood that the creature had called its companions. They could hear many fast footsteps from above, as if thousands of creatures were running over their heads. Then all of them gathered at the bunker door, while Jason, Beth, and Joey trembled with fear below. Suddenly, they launched a massive attack. This time the force was much stronger than before. The strong iron door broke and fell down, and many glowing eyes appeared at the bunker entrance. The family ran toward the back in terror, but the monsters followed them. Beth threw her oil lamp and set the curtains on fire between them and the creatures. Then both parents pushed a cabinet to block the path. They all ran quickly toward the inner part of the bunker, but they knew these barriers wouldn't stop the creatures for long. They had no way to escape. Then the little girl spotted a ventilation opening that led down into the ground. Jason broke it open with force and used all his strength to push his wife and daughter through to safety. But when Jason tried to get out himself, he got stuck because the space was too narrow. On the other side, the monsters were approaching him. Jason had to find a way out somehow. He saw no other choice, so he broke his own shoulder bone, which made him scream in pain. But he quickly controlled himself and squeezed into the ventilation shaft. Beth immediately began pulling Jason out with all her strength. Just as Jason was about to escape, a huge creature grabbed his leg. Jason realized it was impossible for him to escape now. There was no hope of getting away. Looking into his wife's eyes, Jason told her to protect Joey no matter what happened. And in the next moment, the monster dragged him back into the bunker. But instead of being afraid of the monsters in the bunker, Jason told them, "Come on, let's see how strong you really are." When Beth and Joey looked down, they could hear terrible screaming sounds coming from the bunker. Beth understood that her husband was fighting to give them time to escape. Despite her pain, She took her daughter and ran away from there. While running and hiding from the monsters, they came to something strange. The highway that led to the outside world now had a high wall built across it. This meant no one could leave the city anymore. Then a helicopter appeared flying in the distance. When Beth looked back, she saw it was a military helicopter. The helicopter quickly approached them and shined a bright spotlight on them. Just as they were about to run away, a large net fell on them from above. Actually, when the virus first spread, many people in this small city had already been infected. The virus spread through the air and could transmit very quickly from one person to another. The infected people didn't even know they were sick, and the government had no antidote to stop this virus. The government had no choice but to kill the infected people. Beth cried and begged them to let her little daughter go. When Beth saw that these soldiers wouldn't even spare her small child, she became completely furious. Dark marks began appearing on her face, but before she could do anything, blood suddenly spurted from one soldier's neck. It was Jason, who had returned from the dead. Actually, Jason hadn't died in the bunker. Instead, he had lost control of himself there and killed all the soldiers. At that moment, he was extremely angry, with dark marks on his face, red eyes filled with rage, and his body strength had increased many times over. It was clear that he was no longer the same Jason, but had transformed into something different. He pounced on the soldiers and began killing them, but he couldn't stop the bullets from their weapons and fell to the ground. When the soldiers moved toward Beth and Joey, they had already broken free from the net and escaped. The soldiers began searching for them everywhere, but they didn't realize that Beth had also transformed into a monster-like form. She hid Joey inside a car and began fighting the soldiers herself. She killed several soldiers and then fell onto the car roof after being shot. Her daughter, hiding in the darkness, saw everything. Seeing her parents' condition, she also became angry and lost her temper. In one leap, she knocked down a soldier, broke his mask, and was about to kill him when Beth stopped her just in time. Beth didn't want her daughter to become a monster too. She calmed Joey down, and slowly the G